Hey guys, it's me, Mr. 250, and welcome back to Higurashi. So last time we had Takano, I believe Takano was, it was showing us like how Takano kind of gained so much power and got to the position that she was in. Being able to lead all those people and have all those resources in order to kill this village or kill these kids. I don't know. I'm sure we'll see exactly how it was, but as far as we know, it was continue her father's research, or finish it. Grandfather, I should say. So, anyway, let's continue.
Go 紹介します。高野三佐です。三佐、こちらは入江京介先生です。
どうも、入江と申します。
Irie seemed extremely nervous at our first meeting. He probably thought I was in charge of some suspicious organization.
萎縮しなくて結構ですわ。高野とお呼びください。
恐縮です。この度はお引き立ていただき深く感謝いたします。
どうぞおかけになってください。
A model, lower middle class citizen, was a good way to describe Kyosuke Irie's demeanor. One could also say he was the stereotypical type of person to get conveniently discarded after those crafty elders use their seniority to constantly pick on him. He certainly doesn't seem as cunning as I am. But that doesn't mean he isn't ambitious. Like me, he's a young person who dreams of accomplishing something great and leaving his name upon generations to come. While he acts humble in person like this, his articles were actually progressive as well as aggressive. The gap between the two was quite intense.
平見沢症候群の資料を読ませていただきました。
いかがでしたか？
非常に驚くことばかりでした。確かに今日の医学の暗部に踏み込みかねない内容ではありますが、未だ世界で誰も解明していない神秘という点で知的興奮を抑えきれません。
Hearing that made me chuckle. Irie is more than interested in Hinamizawa syndrome, which is good enough for me. She had been through the ringer with far too many people to reach this day. So her honed intuition could tell. She would get along well with this man. Even if he isn't useful to me, he won't cause any problems. For both me and my sponsor, he's the best person possible for the job.
私こそ驚いております。入江先生ほどの博識かつ経験豊富な方が責任ある地位も仕事も与えられず、医局の片隅で飼い殺されているなど、これは医学界の重大な損失と言わざるを得ませんわ。
Irie laughed. He probably thought I didn't know, but I had received detailed documents on him. So I knew why he was exiled from the limelight, despite his rare talent and achievements. He displayed extraordinary skill working under a neurosurgery expert, and everyone expected a bright future from him. But he was kicked out due to an ethical controversy. Irie's pet theory was that the antisocial behavior of individuals could be explained by brain disorders. He believed that no one in this world was born a villain, and that they were all just poor patients in need of treatment. He proposed that they were all proper and normal when born, yet as they matured, psychogenesis and various exogenous factors caused brain disorders that made them into villains. Therefore, what those evil people need isn't punishment, it's treatment, and if their diseases are treated, they will become good citizens again. That manner of thinking actually fell in line with the Confucian belief of innate human goodness. According to this theory, humans are born with the capacity for altruism towards their kind, and it is only afterwards that they learn and acquire cruelty. Irie believed that acquisition was the result of brain disorders, The human brain creates human thoughts. Therefore, if one becomes emotionally ill, that means their brain is ill. So if their brain gets treatment, they will recover emotionally too. That field was called psychosurgery. It's fallen out of practice in the current Heisei era, but the surgical techniques were applauded until mid-Showa, especially since it produced spectacular results on a chronic mental patient that was said to be incurable. The man who invented it even won a Nobel Prize. That was how revolutionary it was. Humans think. That's why they become ill. Everyone knows that's why those who overthink matters are prone to mental illness. When the organ that thinks and debates grows ill, humans deviate from social behavior. That part is called the frontal lobe. Put simply, psychosurgery is surgery performed to operate on the frontal lobe. This kind of surgery doesn't require removing the whole epicranium. A small hole is drilled through the cranium, and a special scalpel is inserted down to cut it. Isn't this, what is this called? Isn't this, now I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, it's not a major surgery, just a technique for quickly operating on the precious frontal lobe. Indeed, it was revolutionary in its simplicity. All the several severely ill mental patients miraculously recovered, so the technique spread around the world quickly. Those with obstinate and chronic mental illnesses, the severely ill trapped in deep, inescapable depression, all of those could be saved by this technique. Throughout history, humans have come up with many different religions and magic tricks to heal emotional injuries. So needless to say, the idea of being able to treat them with a surgical technique was truly revolutionary. Irie admired psychosurgery and pushed forward in the field of surgical techniques to treat human souls. However, from the modern human rights, lobotomy, that's what I'm thinking. Although I think lobotomies are a little different. Hold on. Alright, so I don't want to read any more about this, but lobotomy sounds similar. Cut a hole in the skull, and they first started talking about injecting ethanol into the brain, but later they had a surgical instrument which creates a loop of wire that when rotated creates a circular liaison in the brain. So that sounds similar to what we're talking about here. Small hole is drilled through the cranium and a special scalpel is inserted down to cut it. And they talk about frontal lobe. On this website they mention where is it? They mention prefrontal lobe. Sounds similar, might be a little bit different, but it's for treating the same sort of things. I think that's what they're talking about. However, from the modern human rights standpoint, severing a portion of the brain simply because someone is emotionally disturbed is absolutely out of the question. People gradually started to think differently and said that psychosurgery was inhumane. The frontal lobe controls how people think, but it's also the part that makes humans act human. There were quite a few cases where that cut caused drastic, irreversible changes in the patient. A baseless happiness born from lack of thought. A change in personality. A loss of interest in everything. Major mood swings due to a lack of control over one's emotions. Some even lost part of their memories. Of course, some didn't even survive the surgery. By the mid-1960s, use of psychosurgery declined. Also, due to development of psychotropic medicine, the surgery was hardly performed anymore anyway. Yet some people still believed in the idea, and continued to perform the surgery and gather clinical data. They wanted people to recognize the value of the technique once again. Some of these surgeries were performed without consent. One theory is that in Japan alone, there were thousands of people who woke up from general anesthesia, only to find part of their brain had been removed. Today, to perform such a surgery without a patient's consent is considered totally unethical, but it was different at the time. For one thing, the idea is the doctors required prior patient consent was proliferated in the modern Heisei era. Therefore, people at the time didn't think that it was that big of an issue. It was only later that people started to argue that it was inhumane. Finally, a decision was reached, and the curtain closed with the rejection of psychosurgery. Later, the Japanese Society of Psychology and Neurology passed their resolution to end psychosurgery. After that, psychosurgery was banned throughout Japan and made a forbidden subject of Japanese medicine. Irie was the leading person in the field of psychosurgery. He continued to advocate its effectiveness and results. Therefore, he was treated as a war criminal who practiced inhumane medicine, and he was exiled from the public eye. However, that doesn't mean he changed his beliefs. He still believes that immoral behavior is caused by brain disorders, and the secret of treating them is, in fact, hidden in the brain. So the existence of Hinamizawa syndrome, caused by parasites living in the brain that control human emotions, actually affirms his theory.
私ごときでよろしければ、この度の話、ぜひ引き受けさせていただきたいと思います。
Of course. Given Irie's history, he would never turn down this offer. Despite his mild-mannered appearance, Irie was possessed by a mighty ambition. There was no way he didn't desire a chance to complete research that would prove himself to the medical society that ostracized him. I'm handing him that chance on a silver platter.
ありがとうございます。入江先生ならばきっと良いお返事をいただけると信じておりました。当方もあなたのような専門家を迎えられ、とても助かります。
しかし、私などが所長でいいのでしょうか。それは高野さんがやられた方がよろしいでしょう。私は単なる医者に過ぎません。人の上に立ったことなど。
ご安心ください。それにつきましては、私も全面的にサポートいたします。トップは制服ではなく背広からというのが上の希望でもあります。お気に召しませんか、入江所長という呼び名は。
いえいえ。いや、しかし
Irie laughed to hide his embarrassment.
現在、ひなみ沢に研究施設を建設中です。表向きは診療所ということになっています。入江先生にご快諾をいただけましたので、入江診療所という名前にいたしましょう。
一国一城の主とはもったいない話です。
あと身分を陸自で預かることになりますので、先生の席は陸自の医官という扱いになります。私の上司ですので2佐の階級になりますので、入江2佐という呼び名はいかがでしょ
う。私は軍人じゃありません。2佐という呼び名は遠慮させていただきたいものです。所長だって恐れ多いくらいです。いやいや
He's getting a chance to research brain parasites, plus being given the title of director of a new clinic as camouflage. Plus it comes with staff and funding. He'll even have support from the Defense Agency and the Ministry of Health and Welfare, as well as a research lab with state-of-the-art equipment. No wonder he's laughing so excitedly. However, there are some risks too. Since he'll be involved with this secret research, he has an obligation to keep it a secret. Also, he's going to be in an area plagued by a mysterious and bizarre disease. There's no guarantee he won't contract it himself. But Irie is too young to even think about those things. Aware of all the risks, he quickly signed the contract with the ambition to have people recognize his talent once again. When I saw him sign the contract, I finally relaxed. I knew he would agree to join us, but at the same time I was afraid of the chance that he'd refuse. Selecting a director proved more difficult than expected, and the only candidate Takano paired well with was Irie. So if Irie refused to take the position, then, frankly, she'd be placed in an even worse situation. Now that Irie has agreed to take the position, research on Hinamizawa syndrome can finally begin. The research center, or rather the clinic, will be completed next spring. The Ministry of Health and Welfare and the Defense Agency will send the best equipment and staff, plus an abundant supply of funds. Then finally, our research will begin in earnest. Everything is going well. Of course it is. I put so much effort into making sure things went smoothly up to this point.
以上です。就任おめでとうございます、入江所長殿。サンサ、宣誓書へのサインを終わりました。
ありがとう。これからよろしくお願いいたしますわ、入江所長。
こちらこそよろしくお願いします、高野さん。仲良くやりましょう。私も全身全霊をかけて頑張ります。
こちらこそお互い最善を尽くしましょう。
Now the position of director has been filled. Everything is set.
それはよかったよかった。おめでとう、高野さん。え、高野三佐でしたかな？
これもすべて先生方のお力添えがあったからこそです。高野美代、皆様に心より感謝させていただきます。
まあまあ、高野さんに本当の意味でおめでとうが言えるのは研究が成功に終わった時ですな。ようやく入り口にたどり着いたに過ぎませんよ。
おっしゃる通りです。寝る間を惜しんで研究に身を投じていく覚悟です。
高野先生が成し遂げられなかったさらにその先へ至られることを私ども一度楽しみにいたしておりますぞ。
まあまあ先生、今日はそういう堅苦しい話は抜きにしましょう。今日は高野さんのこれからと入江機関の設立を祝って乾杯と参りましょう。
乾杯の前にご挨拶申し上げます。厚生省の永田と申します。どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。
ああ、高野さん、彼をバシバシこき使ってやってください。彼のところの研究所は入江機関のバックアップをしてくれます。技術的に困ったことがあったらいつでも頼ってやってください。
こき使うだなんてそんな。こちらこそお世話になります。高野と申します。どうかよろしくお願いします。
高野さん、こちらも紹介しましょう。陸自から出向の富武君と小此木君です。陸自側からのバックアップをします。ぜひご挨拶させてください。
はじめまして、富武と申します。この度のプロジェクトの監査役を仰せつかりました。
I see how we got that outfit now.
どうかよろしくお願いいたします。
The funding for our research is largely coming from the SDF. It's only natural for the SDF to assign a watchdog to make sure reasonable research is taking place. However, someone in a position like that should be my opponent. Why was someone in that position invited to this private party? Does that mean this auditor is on my side too? Seeing that thorough groundwork, I couldn't help but feel the strength of having a sponsor all over again.
私は直接はひなみ沢に赴きませんが、定期的にお伺いして研究の進捗管理などをさせていただくことになります。
あら、それは残念ですわね。ひなみ沢は空気も良くて自然も素晴らしいところですのよ。ぜひ仕事以外でも気軽に遊びにいらしてくださいね。
ありがとうございます。そうさせていただきます。
If he really is an auditor, I should maintain a good relationship with this man. He'll hold the keys to all future adjustments for funding so long as we continue drawing it from the SDF.
お好みと申します。
Okonagi looks a little bit grumpy.
よろしくお願いいたします。
彼は不正規船部隊の一つ山犬の隊長です。ひなみ沢に常駐し三佐を直接サポートします。
ボディーガードみたいなものと思っていいのかしら。
要人護衛、機密保持が主な任務です。三佐の直接の手足となりますので、どうかこき使ってやってください。
よろしくお願いします。
Tomitake seems to be an honest type for a military man, but this Okonagi person looks the complete opposite. His main job is to preserve secrets, but I bet he's also good with espionage tactics like counterintelligence and information control. Yes, that would explain his demeanor. Since the SDF is funding our research on Hinamizawa syndrome, of course this is considered a military operation. Therefore, this research has to be done in secret. That's why a unit like this is necessary. Besides, it's very reassuring to have someone capable of combat working under me. I should maintain a good relationship with him too.
さあさあさあ、挨拶はこれくらいにして早く乾杯に移りましょう。さあさあ、富武君も足を崩して、今日は入江機関の前途を祝して無礼講で参りましょう。
Well, this is supposed to celebrate the establishment of the Irie Institute. Irie himself isn't here. But that's his job after all. Irie is simply a puppet to fill a seat. Of course I expect him to help me a little with his expertise, but he's ultimately an outsider. This was supposed to be a gathering where I would show my appreciation to those who helped me establish the Irie Institute. But it has turned into them thanking me for all of my efforts. I'm always the one to pour alcohol for others, but today people are pouring alcohol in my glass. The new participants were trying to make me happy, and all the top people talked to me casually. They all praised my hard work and my efforts. My research is now recognized by many institutions, and I'm ready to spread my wings open wide. And all the people who are expecting some returns once the research accomplishes something are trying to curry favor with me. But right now, I'm just very grateful, regardless of their motives.
それでは入江機関の設立と高野美代君の今後ますますの発展を祈願して乾杯に移りたいと思います。先生、音頭をお願いいたします。
It's like a dream. I know. This is just the beginning, and I shouldn't be satisfied with this alone. But just for today, I can forget about everything else and enjoy this celebration. I'm not a heavy drinker, but the drinks taste good tonight, and the more I drink, the happier I get. This is really wonderful. To be called Major by Tomitake and the others is wonderful too. That's the rank my grandfather had during the war. That means I've finally caught up with my grandfather. This is only the beginning. From here on, I intend to reach what my grandfather couldn't. This is the best night of my life. I ended up leaving to fix my makeup. I'm filled with elation. I need to feel fresh air to calm myself down. My heart is about to explode because I'm so happy. The gathering is taking place a little distance away from the main building. The restroom is in the main building, so I need to walk across the hallway. A beautiful and well-maintained Japanese garden is visible from the hallway. It's raining. I usually don't like rain, but I don't mind it at all today. I feel like even the raindrops are congratulating me. The cool air feels pleasant on my hot skin. It took me a moment to notice how unsteady my footsteps had become. Maybe I drank a little too much. It isn't like me to drink more than I can handle. Although this is a party, I don't want to embarrass myself, so I decided to cool off a little by looking at the beautiful Japanese garden. I found an elegant chair set on a red carpet nearby and sat down on it. Since I was with the associates until now, I was forced to constantly be on guard against embarrassing myself. But now that I was alone, I could let go and truly relax. When I look up to the sky, I realize it's still raining hard, but in the distance the horizon is a little lighter. Maybe it won't be raining for much longer. Well, that's normal. Rain stops eventually. No matter how cold it is, or how hard it's raining, rain stops eventually. I saw a pair of sandals and an umbrella, almost inviting me. So I took them into the garden. The tasteless laughter coming from the party sounds far away. I tilted the umbrella and looked up to the sky. I felt the raindrops hit my face, and gazed up at the sky for a while, forgetting all about my hair getting wet. I thought the rain would cool down my boiling heart, but as my body got cold, I started to feel miserable. I think that's because you're drinking alcohol, and I think alcohol makes you colder, if I'm not mistaken. My bare feet were all swollen. The throbbing pain I felt make them seem twice their normal size. Oh. Okay, never mind. The gravel road continued forever. I didn't even know what direction I was heading in anymore. I could no longer hear my pursuer. I'd probably lost him by running through the woods like mad. My body was covered in scratches. I finally started to feel the pain from that. I felt both cold and hungry. There was no place nearby to take shelter from the rain. I was just on a little path in the woods. My worst fear was that I could end up heading back towards the orphanage, after bolting and losing my sense of direction. I had crushed that man's finger. I didn't think I'd bit it off, but I was sure it would leave a scar. Taking that into consideration, it was very clear to me what kind of torture awaited me back at the orphanage. Therefore, I'd have to reach the House of Love and Mercy. If only it had been daytime, then I easily could have found the right way to go. However, with this rain, there was nothing I could do. But I couldn't stop. I had to keep walking until I reached something. I wondered if Eriko and the others had escaped safely. I didn't know how many people came after us, but at least one came after me. In other words, it meant they had a better chance. Did they reach the House of Love and Mercy? Were they drying themselves with soft towels? And if they still remembered me, would they save a towel for me too? I felt so cold. I wanted to find shelter and sit down, but there was nothing of the sort. I saw a tree that looked like I could take shelter under it, but the branches and leaves were dripping with water. It was then that I realized that the sky was gradually getting darker. Would this day end in rain? There were no streetlights where I was. Soon enough it would be totally dark. Then I wouldn't be able to walk any further. I just wanted to sit down, even if it was raining. But if I did sit down, I probably wouldn't be able to stand up again. So I endured. If I hadn't escaped with Eriko and the others, I wouldn't have had to go through such misery. But compared to what I had to go through at the orphanage, this was nothing. Thinking about that was the only way to make myself move. But when I thought about that, it's true that this freezing cold rain was far better than my life at the orphanage. But that was only when compared to the life at the orphanage. Was it better than the normal lives of normal kids my age? I didn't even need to think about that. When my parents were alive, although we weren't rich, we led a normal life. The gentle smiles and forgivable selfishness. The sound of my mother cooking breakfast in the morning. The sound of a newspaper being folded. Precious memories like that. I didn't need anything else. I had plenty of friends. I had fun at school. I didn't like my teacher, but I liked studying. I had everything I needed. That was enough for me. I never complained. I never did anything bad. So why was this happening to me? Everything went downhill after that train accident. The die of fate kept rolling a 1. The die never showed its good side to me. If the accident was my fault, then I could have accepted it. But it wasn't. I wasn't even there. I waited for my parents at home. Oh, sorry. I like going to the mall with them. We always had a meal at the restaurant in the mall. I always told them to let me know if they were going to the mall. But on that day, they went without me while I went to a friend's house to play. My friend wasn't in, so I went back home. I didn't see anyone at home and found a note that said they were going to the mall. I regretted going to my friend's house. I waited at home. They didn't come home. They were still gone by dinner time. I was getting hungry and got angry with my parents for leaving me. I thought they were having dinner at the mall restaurant without me. If I hadn't gone to my friend's house, I would be eating dinner at the restaurant too. I loved the little flags that came with the kids' meals. I was collecting those flags. Yes, I was. I was trying to collect 20 of them, thinking that when I collected 20, something wonderful would happen. But I couldn't collect 20 of them. I only needed one more. If I had one more, maybe the accident wouldn't have happened. A very sad memory of a flag from a kid's meal. I kept waiting for my parents to come home from the mall. I was hungry, so I started to eat some dried fish. If I ate too much, my mother would find out, so I was careful not to gorge myself. Then the phone rang. I assumed it was from my parents. I answered the phone in an angry manner, but it wasn't them at all.